but I am excited to be here tonight with my friend Rick. Thank you so much for being here. Just to let everybody know, I met Rick during our 100-mile run. So it was quite crazy. He came up from behind, or I came up from behind, and it was dark. We just kind of started talking, and somehow this made this connection that, I don't know, it was beautiful. And then later on in the race, Rick was a little, lacking in energy. So I happened to have some caffeine and gave it to Rick. And anyway, beautiful. I'm not going to ruin all of this, but we're here to hear about Rick and his story. So Rick, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, brother. And meeting you out there was such a blessing. Earlier in the day because I did come up from behind you at night, and but earlier in the day, I passed you up and you were talking to another runner, and I overheard a little bit of the conversation you were having with him, and it really intrigued me. You were talking about like 3 things that every man needs in their life, and I was like, whoa, this is the stuff I love, a podcast type stuff. And you were talking about like Warrior Heart, I think, and which I didn't attend or nothing, but yes, we met up at that 100-mile up at by the Grand Canyon, Flagstaff to the Grand Canyon.
It was beautiful.
And that night was crazy. And thank you for getting me through it to the end, because I don't know where I'd probably still be out there.
That's funny. Oh, man, it was a little rough there at the end for sure. Oof.
Yeah.
I get it. But that was your 4th 100-miler.
My 4th time running 100, my 3rd time completing it. And I was ready to not finish that one. I was mile 89. I told them I'm done because I had gotten lost earlier the first day, and I just couldn't shake that. So
that's right. You were one of the ones that ran like a mile or 2 the other way after the cattle guard. Right.
Yes, exactly. A mile and a half out. And so that just, I couldn't shake it from there on out. It's like I kept thinking, like, my family's waiting for me at the next aid station. I would have been there already. I should have been way ahead. When I told the guys at mile 89, they're like, no, you got like 4 hours left. You look great. I'm like, no, look at my watch. It says mile 93. Do you understand? When I get to the finish, it's going to be like 103, not 100. Like, I'm running more. Like, in my head, I did not. And then the rocks, that.
Yes.
That course was a lot rockier than I thought. It
was. And, my big toe was still numb. Yeah.
Yes. My toenail is just, I'm surprised I haven't lost these bad boys, but they're bruised up, and I was kicking rocks literally all night. And it's tough. It's mental, most of it.
You're absolutely right.
And the mental part took me out. I almost convinced my body that I couldn't do it.
Yep.
And
I'm glad.
Thank God for
those
pulled through, guys. Yeah. No. Thank you again for helping me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Rick, kind of tell us a little bit about you growing up. How many brothers and sisters? Where'd you grow up?
So I am the oldest of 4.
Okay.
Only son, 3 sisters, and grew up in Paramount, California, where I still reside. My mother lives about a mile away from me. And growing up with 2 parents, they immigrated here from Mexico in about the 70s. Yeah, because they got married in the 70s. I was born in 77. I was born just a little bit up north here, East LA, Monterey Park, actually. And life was interesting for me, right? English was not my first language, and you'll probably catch some of that here. uh, but yeah, that's pretty much how, like, my nuclear family at that age.
So,
It's
oldest of four. What was that like for you, being the oldest
oh man,
and the only boy?
was always in the picture, and he was just very stern with me. He was like, made me mow the lawn and I never wanted to, and if I didn't do it the way he taught me how, I'd get a whooping out on the front yard. And I told you this way, and and it was tough. And so, like, he taught me to be responsible at an early age and to take care of my young only sister. She was born in 79. Again, I'm in 77, and so it was until 86 till we had another sibling
Oh yeah.
in the picture. So I love that. I love my sister. I remember, I don't know if my parents instilled this in me, but like, look after your sister, and I'm just very protective of her. I remember being that way. So I always felt like a lot of responsibility at a young age, like looking after my sister. As I grew older, my parents put me into sports at a very young age. I played baseball from about the age of 5, I want to say, maybe 6, up until about the age of 16. But uh, I say that story because I love playing baseball, and I was actually pretty good at it. And I think that's where I get this crazy competitiveness and running, like just being physical and out there running. But I grew up did baseball cards like crazy, and I would buy the Beckett, or this guide that kind of told you what cards were worth at the time, and I would add it all up on a calculator and tell my mom, "Look, mom, I got like $1,000 in worth of baseball cards here. Most of them were like 10-cent cards, nothing like really worthy to note." But I had this dream that I wanted to be a baseball player, and I tried. I really tried, but I remember having that dream uh, like burst at the age of 13. Um, my parents were starting a business out of our garage, and it was a wholesale business for restaurants supply. And I was like, okay, that's going on over there. I was a kid, and we went to a party one evening, and my parents had like this serious talk with me at the age of 13. They're like, hey, so we're starting this business, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to help us with this business, and it's going to be yours in the future. And this is pretty much what you're going to do. And I just remember thinking back then, like, I want to be a baseball player. Like, what about that? I didn't say it,
Right.
but it always, yeah, it really like just bugged me because I kind of already had a taste for the family business that little as it was growing. Like, my dad was starting to have me help him set things up in the garage and move around these big heavy boxes and sacks of rice and beans weighing like 50 pounds and just getting things in order. And but yeah, so that was life early on for me. It was loving baseball and then having to realize that that wasn't going to be my life, that I was going to have to do as my parents asked me to.
What did that leave you feeling about
um
yourself? Or
I mean, I didn't really have a choice. I just felt I was upset. Like, I guess I had a little resentment towards my parents and maybe more towards my dad because I knew this was more his like area of expertise. Like I knew this business was stemming from him, not from my mother, who worked at a making, I think, tiles. And so yeah, my dad was in the food industry business, and so I knew this came from him. And I think I that was probably one of the first resentments I had, like an actual somebody who I loved. Because we pick up resentments earlier than that. Probably, friends down the street tripping me or calling me names and stuff like that. But like someone who I actually loved to have like a little resentment towards it. And yeah, it was didn't sit well with me. That's not natural, I guess, to not love start or not love your father, but to have like something there that kind of prevents you from loving him the way you want to or you should.
Right. So was your family always a church going family growing up?
Yeah, we had our little spells here and there where we would, it was like, our seasons where I'd remember being in mass consistently. And then my mom, bless her heart, one of my earliest memories was of her reading the Bible to me, like with the illustrations of like the animals getting on Noah's Ark, and just reading me these stories and me following along, and then teaching me our Lord's Prayer in Spanish. And I remember this, and she always reminds me of it to this day, when it gets to the part, give us this day our daily bread. I must have been like 4, I'm thinking, or maybe 3-ish. It's weird if I remember that, but I remember telling her in Spanish, with jelly, Mom, with jelly, like, because with mermelada, I want some jelly on that bread.
I love it.
And, yeah, that's one of my fondest childhood memories, because that's the first time that I remember hearing about my God. So.
And who was God to you at the time? Being so young, and sometimes it's hard to put words to it, but who was God to you then? How did you see him?
This figure in the sky, like this all powerful, but mostly I feared God. I don't know why. I feared God, maybe because I felt like he was watching me, and I was a pretty bad kid early on. I grew up in the 80s, that we didn't have internet. I was outside just, man, shooting birds with BB guns or slingshots, and drowning out gophers with a water hose and then giving them a whack with a shovel, and it's just feeling like this God, just awful afterwards. It's oh God, I'm a murderer, I'm a killer, and just thinking, and that's just, so yeah, God to me early on was just almost like Santa, right? You don't want to, you have to be good. Or you don't get into heaven, you go to hell. And so yeah, fearing God was that was my biggest impression, or my understanding of him back then. It's I need to do, it's almost like having a father, like my dad, who would just discipline me if I didn't do things right, but my dad's actually physically disciplining me. And it's yeah, that's was my understanding.
Right. It's almost worse, I think, sometimes, because we have this image in our head and a lot of times we project our parents faced on God, right? We think if my dad is this way, then this really must be how God is times 10, right?
Yeah,
And
you're
so,
right.
I mean, it's kind of twisted, but I don't know that our parents or even people in church tell us any different, right? Like, it's just like sometimes, like you said in mass, I'm sure they were telling you, like, you better be good or you're going to hell, right? So in
Yeah,
your mind, it's like, okay, well, God's up there. He's bigger than I am, right? He's not going to come down and smite me, but he may inflict some things on me that bad things are going to happen because I'm not a good kid or I'm not doing good things, right? When in reality, that isn't who God is at all. And so as you were growing up, you say you were a bad kid. You grew up in the 80s. I don't really think that that's a bad kid. That's just being a boy outside doing, kid things. But I'm sure at some point, Rick, things started to shift, right? Life became a bit challenging where God wasn't really a part of your life, where maybe he was just more distant than he was before, like high
yeah.
school. How was high school?
I mean, I think, yeah, like life changed, and I started changing with it, I'm getting older. And I remember one time going to mass on a Sunday morning, and I'm wearing a baseball cap because I just didn't want to do my hair that morning. And I'm wearing my baseball cap thinking somehow I'm going to get into church wearing this baseball cap and my dad's not going to say anything or any. I'm about 11 or 12 maybe. And I get off the car and I'm still wearing this cap, and my dad looks over at me and he's, what are you doing? You think you're gonna go in there with that cap? I'm like, yeah. Like, well, why not, right? And you better take that hat off or I'm gonna whoop you right here. I'm like, oh man, really? It's like my hair's a mess. I'm like trying to, and so like I started to rebel. I started, like going through that phase that kids go through and rebel against my parents. And yeah, I mean, I started, I think even that day, like not wanting to do mass, not wanting to go worship. Like, just like, dude, this is a drag. This is a drag. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I can't even wear my hat in here. Like, so yeah, I mean, fast forward to my high school years and I start picking up substances. I think, yeah, I got drunk before I got high on weed. And I mean, back then that was my God after that. Like
Mm-hmm.
just trying to, you know, earn respect or earn the admiration of my peers and be cool in their eyes. Oh, Rick's cool. Hey, invite him to the next party. And just, so yeah, like I got lost in high school, like in alcohol, in drugs, and to the point that my parents ended up sending me to live in with my aunt out in Bakersfield, which is about 100 miles north of here, and she's not even like in the heart of Bakersfield, like in the city. She's like 15 miles out on an acre of land that she owned, like in some alfalfa field in a trailer with my three cousins and her second husband. And boy, did I really have a resentment for my parents after they sent me out there, because at that point I was getting into a lot of fights in high school, and it escalated, and I was getting shot at. I got shot at one evening, twice in one evening. We were at a wake. One of my friends was playing with a gun, and it went off, and he shot himself in the head.
Mm.
And we're at his wake, and I wasn't in a gang per se. I was more in a tagging crew, That was big here in the early 90s. And anyways, some like rival tagging crew was driving by the mortuary where the services were being held, playing music really loud, driving by and laughing. And a couple of the guys were like, "Hey, Rick, you're driving, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, take us over to this house." I drive them over there. I don't know what we're doing. They get guns. They're coming back to my car, and I'm like, I see the guns, and I'm like, "Oh no!" I wasn't. I didn't want any part of that. And I'm like, "What are we doing?" But I couldn't say no because these guys were like the big guys in our tagging crew that I wanted to earn their respect, and I wanted to fit in with these guys so bad for some dang reason. And we go looking for these guys, and I'm just praying that we don't find them. And we drive down the street, and there's like a house party going on, and a lot of people outside, and they kind of look like thugs, kind of like we did at the time. And it's like, yeah, I think these are them. They're saying, and drive, go flip a U-turn, Rick. And it's like, oh, make a U-turn. And then there's like, all of a sudden we have a car right behind us. And one of the guys looks back and he's like, hey, it's them. They're behind us. And they're like, step on it. So I step on it. This car starts chasing us. They pull up alongside me, and they get a shot off and hit my mom's truck right on the side, my door. And I pull into this shopping center and drive behind this grocery store, and they just drive off. I'm like, I'm out. I gotta go. So I go drop them off at a house where everybody was gathering after the services. And as I'm dropping them off and we're telling the story of what just happened, they pass by again and shoot at us again.
Oh my
And
goodness.
anyways, so the next day, I'm like, they're not gonna see that bullet hole. It must have been like a 25 caliber, because you could fit like a pencil in there. It was a small caliber, thank God, because it was any bigger, it would have probably hit me in the thigh.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom ended up seeing it. Like, I don't know how, because it was in the part of the car. There was like a trim. There was like a
Oh yeah.
plastic trim, a
Yeah.
black thing, like I guess to guard against bumping, your
Yeah.
neighbor's car or something. And it was there, and so it didn't stand out too much. But she saw it, and she's like, "Hey, well, what happened to the car?" I'm like, "I don't know." Yeah, you do. You get, and it's like I couldn't. I don't know. Parents know things. I don't know how, but I denied, and they shipped me off. They shipped me off. I didn't tell them what happened. I didn't tell them I got shot at, but they're like, "You're gonna get killed. You're gonna get killed for that." It's like I felt abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent my junior year out in Shafter High School, and I was just counting the days, and I was writing letters. It was like if I was in prison or something to my friends, because there's no text messaging
Right.
still, and nothing like that. So I'm like actually writing letters and mailing them to friends, and they're writing back. And yeah, it was. I mean, God was nowhere in the picture. I wasn't thinking of God at all for
Mm-hmm.
years, like all through high school. I, I, I wasn't thinking of him. It probably wasn't until I got married that God entered the picture again, um, just for that ceremony, just to
Mm-hmm.
get us to join us. But that wasn't till the young age of 19 that I got married.
Okay. That's young. That's good, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's so was it that your wife was kind of like, so you said it was the ceremony, but was she active in church?
Yes.
Okay.
Like her and her parents were in church every Sunday, and I was starting to go with them
Mm-hmm.
just to earn some points there. And
Sure.
not so much that I wanted to be there, but I wanted to be anywhere she was going.
Right.
And this is when we were dating. And yeah, so I mean, it was kind of cool to be back in the church, but I still wasn't there for the right reason, you know?
Wasn't the heart, right? In
Yeah,
your
I
mind,
was
you're
in
like, I'm there to score points with, the in-laws and some with
e-
the wife, Okay. But
exactly.
at least it began, right? You were there. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
At the time when you met your now wife, were you still experiencing a lot of the substance abuse?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. My parents' business at this point had taken off and was successful, thank God, and they were able to provide and help me with a lot of things. And I was working for them full
Mm.
time, and yeah, I mean, it just like my ego back then was just sky high because maybe a little bit because of the business and just my ego's always been a little high and I wasn't aware of it till now and
Mm-hmm.
looking back, but yeah, like I wanted to be, I mean, growing up I said I wanted to be a baseball player. As I've matured and got into these substances, alcohol and all that, and going through high school, like I Scarface, that I love that movie. I try to like be the bad guy. You
Mm-hmm.
need bad guys like me. Like I wanted to be. I thought that was cool. I thought that like getting just wasted and getting shot at and like that was the life. And even though now I was like working for my parents, I was still just like drinking like crazy. I was married. I was getting home at ridiculous hours of the night, and my wife wasn't happy at all with me. And we'd go to mass just like the important days, like Christmas, Easter, Lent, um, Ash Wednesday, really. And but yeah, I was still running the show. Like I still hadn't surrendered. It
Right.
wasn't until, I mean, relatively recently that I kind of surrendered that ego
So I
and
know,
gave my will over to God.
and I absolutely love that. When you say ego, I was part of the addiction recovery program, which is kind of like a 12-step program. And there was one of the members that was there, and he said, ego stands for edging God out.
I
And so,
like
as you were
that.
talking about how I wanted to be the cool guy, I wanted to call the shots, right? My ego, I'm edging God out. He's not a part of anything that I'm doing, mainly because I'm wanting to shield what I'm wanting to do. So I don't want him to see what I'm doing, right? I'm the cool guy, right? And so I think, and like you said, it wasn't until recently that you finally surrendered. What was it that caused you to recognize that you needed to surrender or that you wanted to surrender?
Um, it was forced on me. The law finally caught up with me
Okay.
and got me for a DUI like in 2017, and uh, I had these court appointed, mandatory, no, not classes, meetings that I had to go to, AA meetings, and just hated it, like hated everything I had to do, and went into these rooms and I started to relate to some of these things I would hear in there people share. I started to identify with a lot of the things that they were experiencing or had experienced. And so I started thinking maybe I have this problem with alcohol. And, but yeah, it was forced on me. It was, I didn't choose to surrender, and it was working the 12 steps in this 12-step program that I surrendered.
What did you find out about yourself in the 12-step program that you didn't see before?
Could you say that again? Sorry, you cut out there a sec.
What did you see in the 12-step program about yourself that you didn't see before?
Man, doing that work, what's the saying? Uncover, discover, discard. I uncovered what I think now was driving me to find some sort of peace in these substances: alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamine. I mean, whatever you threw at me, I would pretty much take. But I had some trauma, some childhood trauma that I had never mentioned to anyone. And that was like my dirty, dark secret that you know, just confused the heck out of me as a child. Like, I knew it was wrong, what was happening. And like, I didn't know, like, I knew it was wrong, but then at the same time, it started to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, this is, now I'm participating. Now I'm like, this is awful. So I won't say much about it, but
How old were you?
I was about 9 years old.
Okay, so 9. Okay.
So a cousin.
So this was before, sorry, I'm just getting context. So 9. So this was right about the same time, about 11, that your parents started the business, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can kind of see a pattern a little bit, right? So some trauma happens. Then what solidified it is that your dream was crushed, that you weren't going to be a baseball player because now you had to work for the family business. So now I need to feel better about myself because of the bad that's been happening. Now I'm not going to get my dream. So it's likely of why we turn to substance, because we want to feel good, right? I feel like crap because I don't get my dream. I feel like crap because I'm being abused, right? All of these things. And it's just like, what do I do? How do I handle this? And I think it's just something natural. Whereas I think it would be easier if we would just turn to Christ in the first place, but we don't, because we're human, right? And so from 9 to 11, and then from 11 through high school, you've had all of these experiences that you never said anything to anybody. And that, my friend, is Satan's playground. You are being caused all this contention that you're thinking about yourself. You know, I'm a terrible person. I can't believe I thought that felt good. Like all of these things. And it just builds upon all of it until you're sitting in the room with other people during the 12-step program and you're starting to make these connections. Is that correct?
Exactly.
So you say it was forced upon you. We would call that being humbled, right? I mean, I think God's kind of like, Rick, my son, you know, it's time. Right?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah.
I love it.
So he works in mysterious ways. I mean, it all came out and it just felt like this giant gorilla off my back. I mean, I said it to my sponsor, and I told him about that. He was the first person that I actually gave details and everything of what had happened. And it was a cousin of mine. She was about 10 years she's about 10 years my senior. So I was 9, she was about 19. and he didn't know what to do with that, with what I had just told him. And so he came back to me a couple of days later after talking with his sponsor, and they told me to pray for her. And that blew my mind. That just blew my mind. That I'm like, really, like, pray for her after, I mean, the pain, and like, because I started then like realizing, like, wait a minute, this might have like caused all these things for me to be a certain way all throughout life. Like I'm thinking of the ways it's affected my marriage because of the way I'm wired since a kid sexually. And so it was just like, and now they're asking me to pray for her, and it took me a while to actually get around to doing it. And I did that. I said, I have to do it. He's asking me to do this, so I got to do it. And I did it. I prayed every good thing that I would want for myself. I prayed it for her. And one thing that he did tell me, because I did tell him I'm struggling with this, I haven't gotten around to it. He told me to think about maybe it happened to her as well, and this is just like a chain going, like she now did it to me, and thank God I didn't do it to anybody else. But it's like, and so I never pictured her as a victim as well. And I'm thinking maybe I could see that. Because she didn't have a father, and my aunt kind of shipped her off for some reason. I don't know that story. I don't know that family story. I don't pry. I don't ask my mom, but she didn't live with my aunt. She lived kind of like when my mom shipped me off to Bakersfield. My parents, really nice. Say my mom and dad shipped me off to Bakersfield. She was the same way, but for like her whole life. So maybe her rolling around like from family to family, something happened there. But thinking of that, seeing her with those, with empathy like that, helped me to pray for her. And that really lessened the hate that I harbored for her. It did. It didn't make it right, what she did right, but yeah, it yeah, I don't know. It allowed me to just be free of it, like that hold that it had on me.
Yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to for those of us that are abused. It is coming to terms with what happened, but being able to let it go. Finally, it doesn't have a hold on me anymore, and I'm going to let it go. Yeah, it happened to me, but I'm not going to let it affect me in the negative way. So in your case, where you were finding every substance possible to feel better, now it's like, wait a minute, I don't need that to feel better, because I feel better now that I've acknowledged it and I've let it go. Doesn't make it right, but I can recognize that it could have happened to her. Therefore, I'm going to move on from this.
Yeah.
So once you made that connection, was it easier to stop wanting to feed the addiction?
Yeah. To wanting to stop to, yeah, that, like before doing that work, I just realized that alcohol wasn't serving me anymore. But and so I was already like on a good path, but that just like reinforced it, I think, even more. And I mean, thank God I've been sober 6 years now. August 27th, 2018.
Nice.
So sober from alcohol. And yeah, I mean, that to me is proof that God exists, because I never, ever thought I would be able to stop drinking alcohol. The way I was in an everyday drinker, but I'm an extreme dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's either, I'm not drinking at all, or I'm like
Or you're drinking.
getting, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
a couch potato on my couch weighing 240 pounds, or I'm running 100 miles
that's right.
in, wait, wait, this thing froze up. Are you there, Leon?
Yep,
Oh, there.
I'm
It
here.
froze up on my end.
Yeah, just a
Okay, there
little.
you go. Yeah, but no moderation with me. Very, very extreme. So, but
Yeah,
now,
I think that, and I was having this conversation with my brother and my aunt yesterday, and I do believe that in a lot of cases, because we're born into a fallen world, we all have tendencies, whether they are inherent from our family, from our ancestors, right? So I could be born with an addictive personality. I could be born with an addiction already to alcohol or drugs. So anytime I may take that, it's just like, boom, I'm hooked. And I think that that's just because of the world we live in. And so anytime we have an opportunity to choose, it's just, I think if our mind isn't right, then it's easy to just choose what's easy, the
yeah,
alcohol, the drugs, because my my view of God is skewed. So why would I turn to somebody who I fear? So it's just so much easier to choose the stuff that makes me feel good,
yeah.
right? It's instant.
You're right. And what's easy, and I guess like who you're surrounding yourself with, what they glorify, what our culture is glorifying, and yeah, I mean that's the cool thing to do. Get
Mm-hmm.
drunk, get wasted. I mean, back then it was. Now, thank God, like I see a bunch of zero alcohol drinks on the market. So that my kids don't drink the way I drink, and I'm just glad to see a little bit of a change. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was easy to just go that way, and I think if like earlier, just saying my truth, what happened to me back then. I think that if I would have opened up to someone and told anybody what was going on, an adult, my mother, my father, I maybe I just and I know I didn't do that because I felt like I was gonna get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But like maybe finding someone I trusted that was an adult that could guide me and help me through that, maybe I wouldn't have gone down that path of alcohol and drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe not. It's just so interesting, the what ifs.
Yeah,
We can play that game all day long.
yeah,
But the beautiful thing, Rick, is that what happened and the experience that you've had, it did come to the point to where the Lord was finally able to say, I love you enough to have you be in this position to where you're either going to make the decision to choose me or to continue to choose what feels good and what's easy. So why did you choose God instead of what's easy?
I mean, he's the only thing I had left. That there was no, I mean, alcohol was not an option for me anymore. I did not want to turn to that because alcohol was my god, my king, really. um, it had authority over me. The drugs did as well. And I just didn't like that life anymore. I didn't want that life. And this program pointed me back to my higher power, who I call Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. And it's just like right now I'm on a pink cloud with my faith because I I've rolled around. Like I like listening to TD Jakes, Joel Osteen, but I was baptized Catholic, and I never thought I'd end up going back to a Catholic church and like saying, you know what, this is me. But I'm there, and I'm like reading a lot these days and trying to understand the Holy Trinity. It's like, it's mind blowing to me. I love it. Like, I love trying to just figure that puzzle out, that mystery, and seeing that mystery play itself out in my own marriage, and me and my wife getting closer to God, and things just becoming better. And I mean, even I suffer from night terrors. Like occasionally at night, I will wake up like just like gasping for air and like screaming at the top of the lungs for my mom or my wife or my dad. And sometimes I'm like, just wake up freaked out. And even those have now really subsided because I was like, I don't know what it stems from. I've done therapy, and they told me it's probably PTSD. And I mean, I'm finding this peace now. And what I once despised, the dogma of a Catholic faith, of a Catholic church, the kneeling, the standing, all that, I love that now. It's nuts for me to say that because I understand it now. I've done, like, nobody really, well, maybe in catechism and my confirmation classes, they taught us that, but I wasn't paying attention. But just the structure of it all and like understanding the Mass, I just find a beauty and like this order and this, just having him present there, it just brings tears to my eyes a lot of times when I'm in Mass. And my son, my baby boy, the 10-year-old, he's an altar server at this big, beautiful church that we go to, built in 1923, near USC. It's called St. Vincent de Paul Church. And seeing him up there, his robe, altar serving, it's just, it brings tears to my eyes every time I see him, because I can't believe how good God can be to a sinner like me. Like, it's just like, I am not worthy of this. Like, why? I've done so many bad things in my life. And just to see everything turn around, and I'm slowly getting there. I'm just working towards that. Like, trying to not desire the things of this world, and like just focus on the real prize, the next life and his kingdom, his promise. And it's scary because I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of work to do. But it's been just such a beautiful ride. I mean, not my past life. God, I mean, like you said earlier, we live in a fallen world, and we have to go through some suffering. And that suffering, I mean, at the time, I don't know its purpose. Still to this day, I struggle with it. I've lost a child as well. My wife and I lost a baby boy in 2006. And he died 8 hours after being born. We baptized him like right as he's coming out. We had a father in the room. And it's like that suffering, that's probably the biggest suffering I've ever felt in my life. To have that little boy, Gabriel, pass away in my arms. And he was born with the severe birth defect that it's anencephaly. That's why I go like this, because he wasn't born with the top part of his head. It didn't form properly. And I carried a lot of guilt around because of it, because I was still drinking and using back then, and I for many years, and I still struggle with it now. Some at times, I'm a little bit at peace with it. I mean, it could have been anything really, but I guess what I'm just trying to say is just like that god awful thing happened to us back then, and I know that if I live my life according to God's will, not my will, and that I might have a shot of seeing my son again.
Oh, I don't believe you have a shot. I believe you will. You will see him again, 100%. I believe that with all my heart. There's nothing you have done that would ever keep you from seeing your son again. I can promise you that. And it's incredible to see this 11-year-old boy walking into mass with a baseball hat and his dad saying, "You're not going in," and you're resentful of your dad, to now where your heart is in the right place. You want to be there. You want to do right by God and Jesus Christ. And you are doing everything you can to make your life better and your family's life better. By example, by giving up something that was fun, that felt good, and it just didn't serve you. But who serves you is Jesus Christ. And he's paid the price for what you've done, what I've done, what we're going to do in the future. It's all been paid for. And what a beautiful gift that is. And to see you feel that, right, is just incredible. I knew there was something on the trail when we started talking, that there was something special about you, Rick, and you have truly blessed us with what you shared. I love that. Your will is to do what God wants, not what you want anymore. And I think that's just incredible. And I think that's what he wants us all to do, is to give up what we really want to do for fun or whatever it is, but to want to be with him and to do what he wants us to do. And it's not easy. And
Yeah.
I feel for you and your family and the heartache that you must have experienced, and that span of time that you were masking the hurt with the substance, but you've let all that go. Like, you're facing it, and it's just like, I don't need it anymore. I need Jesus. And it's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. No, thanks for saying that. I mean, I'm really tough on myself, and I try. I try to do his will, and it's like you said, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
is there
it's a tough
anything
deal.
else that you would want to share about your story and your journey in coming to Christ that you haven't shared with us?
Oh boy. I mean, I could be here all night. I'm coming into this thing thinking, man, why would he want to talk to me? I don't really have much to say. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm looking at the clock. I've been yapping for an hour already. It's like, I mean, what I realized in my life is he's revealed himself to me through people like you. And it's it's mind blowing. It really is when you really listen, and maybe you don't realize it at the moment, but a year later, a few months later, you realize like that, like my life would not be what it is today if it wasn't for that person telling me that one thing. It could be, I'll tell you this quick story. I was in between jobs. My parents divorced. Our successful business was sold, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, since all I knew was that business. I was about 20, 28, 29 years old, and I was 240 pounds, and I was out playing golf by myself. And this gentleman asked if he could join me. He's a older guy, and I'm like, sure. We start playing golf, and we start talking. He tells me he's a retired LAPD officer, and a chaplain at that. And I ask him, is it hard to get into the LAPD? Because my parents are kind of selling this job. I'm looking for a job. I need to find another job here soon. And he looks at me and he says, well, if you're serious about, applying, you should really start 10 minutes a day. Run 10 minutes a day, because there's a lot of running involved with the academy. And we finished our round of golf, and that's that little seed that he planted. Run 10 minutes a day, try running 10 minutes a day. It stuck with me. I was driving home, and I started running 10 minutes a day. Not the whole 10 minutes at first. I would jog for like 2 minutes and just dying of breath. Somebody's coming the opposite way. I would stop to catch my breath because I didn't want them to see me in so much pain. And I just kept with it. I applied. I lost. I got down to 185 pounds. So 240. Nice. I lost 55 pounds, about 60 pounds there. LAPD turned me down because of my driving record. At the time, I still hadn't had a DUI. I was driving with a suspended license, so I had 2 points on my record. They turned me away because of that. And now I'm like, well, now what do I do? Like, I did all this running, and these guys don't want me, so I should probably just give it up. But then I was like, nah, I had just fallen in love with running, and I thought, you know what, let me try running one of these marathons. And so I signed up for my first marathon, San Pedro. Oh no, Palos Verdes. I'm looking at the medal here, Palos Verdes marathon. And so that man who retired in Zihuatanejo, Mexico, he just told me that day, his name was Randy. I do remember that. His name was Randy. I believe that was God revealing himself to me. And, so it's like, I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for that man. I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And so I try to be like him. I try to be like that man. Sometimes we all do, maybe keep, you see somebody struggling on the street, maybe a homeless person, and you could say a word or two that might give them hope. And I mean, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful when you catch those moments and realize it was him. Yeah. So I will say that.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You're right. Little things that people come into our lives, and they whisper things in our ears, and it causes us to do something, and then it brings other people into our lives, and that's exactly how we met. That's so true, and I love that. I love that you shared that. Thank you. Well, it has been a pleasure sitting here and speaking with you tonight. Thank you so much
Likewise.
for being vulnerable and sharing with us your journey in coming to Christ. I love it. We are brothers in Christ, and I am grateful for that. And so before we end, I would like to ask you if in the first person you could share with us, if Jesus Christ was sitting here today across from you, what would you, Rick, want to tell him?
Oh boy. Just I want to thank you, Lord, for having mercy on me, a sinner who feels that I don't deserve your mercy or your grace, and you don't withhold it. You do not withhold that love from me and my family, who has no fault in anything I've done. And just thank you for letting me hold my son and get to know him. That those few moments that I had with him, that we had with him, and just thank you for everything. Thank you for this beautiful life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, Rick. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to running more races with you.
Oh man, I'm enjoying retirement. I don't know if I'll
Maybe not 100-miler, but come on.
Maybe not.
You
Maybe
got some
50K.
ultras in you still. 50 miles. Come on.
Oh man, I told my wife maybe a 50K. I don't.
We could do that. That's fine.
Yeah, 50Ks are. Yeah, I mean,
easy.
You can still take the family out.
32. Yeah, we got it.
But I mean, that 100-mile was epic, and I got the buckle. I got the buckle here just to flex it on a little bit of that ego out there.
Absolutely. So whether it's on the course and we're running an ultra, a 50K or whatever, or we're at a Warrior Heart, we'll go. We'll do that.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate you, brother. You are my brother. Thank you.
Likewise,
and you
brother.
Love that family, and we will talk soon.
Have me on. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.